speculation always happens in the current and upcoming moments. It's always going to be bound to the present moment, but also the future moment. And speculation rarely ever considers the past, except for to create inferences and to draw on knowns, what's truly known. Though it's important to also consider that the past is more of a psychological construct or an attribution. And it's a little bit separate from history too, which is also distinct. When we're considering the past, we're very much considering a construct that's integrating memory structures in what has happened in relation to events that are no longer accessible. And when we think about where memory is occurring, it's always happening in the now. And it involves these requirements that we speculate to be able to navigate uncertainty in what we don't know, which is directly related to these gaps in our knowledge processors, our direct perceptions that are bound to these perception-dependent learning plasticities that involve a direct psychophysiological relation to the physicality of our surrounds and a time space that involves these temporal and spatial processes that are direct to our sensors and our precepts or perceptions of time, which is slightly off from our sensors of time and actual time and what's occurring in a time space in relation to our position, our behavior, and real-time updating regarding knowledge processes and direct information processes from sensors and perceptions in direct relation to what's in the environment, and which has to require us to form these congruent and coherent categories of processing to be able to determine what is true and truly known in regards to these speculations and processing information that's coming from our senses that are these priors and currents that we use to inform our future behavior or current behavior in relation to what's true and what's known. And this allows us to establish these speculative knowns and also speculative unknowns, which are directly related to this, I don't really know that, or there's uncertainty. We might think we might know something, perceive something to be actually true or realistically the case, but it not be the case because our perceptions aren't bound to, say, objective truth as it is, but rather form these subjective-objective relationships and are primarily based in psychological truth rather than the objective truth of physicality, which we're connected to and which we're often trying to get at to determine what's truly true and truly known in regards to physicality and objective categories of existence. Where when we're considering other contexts and information contexts, sometimes subjective truths outweigh the objective truth, but this isn't so much when we're considering whether or not something is, say, actually, factually, as a matter of fact, the case in regards to a physical surroundings and ultimate truths pertaining to the universe, but it more pertains to these sense of meaningfulness or a sense of purposefulness that matters to individuals in our subjective experience more than it regards what's actually true in regards to the physical environment or laws of the universe that are objective and that are indifferent to these psychological truths, but which require psychological truths and psychological processes to even be made sense of or exist and to be non-trivial in that regard. So it's important to understand the way the mind actually works in relation to these physicalities and how they operate, and often operate with this need that's essential and necessary for our survival regarding speculative truths and processing of information that is current but also future oriented, that allows us to make judgments off a little bit of information that can be expanded on through subsequent moments, and from inferences that don't necessarily say have too much information or might have a lot of information, but there's always this problem going forward in the future where we can recognize that we don't know everything, and there are these gaps in knowledge, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't know what's going to come up next, or we can't anticipate what's coming up next. And anticipation is often necessary for healthy, functional, psychological well-being, but also psychological sustainability, because that's primarily how we navigate the world, is through addressing this uncertainty that has to do with these laws of indeterminacy in particular, and the entropic conditions of our existence that pertain to the laws of thermodynamics, in which all things are temporary, and in this complex set of fluctuations that are hard to pinpoint to the same set of events, and which tend to have unpredictability built into the structures of physicality that we have to adapt to and make decisions and learn in real-time situations and events that are moving forward, not backwards. And so we have to make predictions based off a little bit of information all the time, and close these gaps of information, which requires us to speculate and also form these same categories of information through explanation that regards our memories, which are often sources in which we can draw on to make real-time informative speculations based off cases that were the same, and our ability to discern causal patterns, and particularly causation, from our past experience, and which is relevant to the moment through being able to form reciprocal relations and recognize the same patterns as well as similar patterns, and also differences and distinctions, and being able to integrate that into one process that we can navigate effectively, but form reliable theories through understanding what's the same across those, establishing truly known knowns from that information that are stable because they are the same and they have these direct reciprocal relations that allow us to establish speculative truth from these. If this were to occur, because I know this, because this has happened in a past instance, then this must occur, allows us to form a speculative known, and which informs our trajectory forward. For example, if I know every Monday that the yogurt goes on sale for $2 at the local grocery store down the street, and it's only usually about an hour or two before that gets taken up, I can speculate that if I get up before the store opens and I'm the first one there, I'm most likely to be able to get that yogurt that's on sale because of my past experiences. I know every Monday that yogurt goes on sale for $2 off for the first, roughly about the first hour or two that it opens up. And that's a speculative truth. And it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not that yogurt, I end up getting that yogurt. It just, what matters there is that there's consistency across those statements, because when you actually go, say, to that store and say you didn't get the yogurt, maybe somebody just got there before you. It's not so much that you were. It's not true. The speculation's not true. It's just incongruent in relation to the other versions of that speculative truth that are congruent. Because what's true is that every Monday that yogurt really does go on sale. And there might be these contingencies in which that's no longer the case, and would make that speculative truth, say in particular situations, false or incorrect, but for a specific contingent reason. And this is always predicated on the basis of a lack of knowledge, because we don't know everything, but we have to act like we know as if it's true. Not so much that we know everything, but that it's important to operate on the basis of information. And since we have to operate on the basis of information, we have to have these modes in which we can navigate the world that is largely uncertain, in which we actually don't know everything, in which we have to form these known categories of processing to be able to meaningfully engage with it and do so purposefully.